Having children is an extraordinary journey filled with unparalleled joys. But every parent knows that it's not always smooth sailing. Our kids can at times let us down, test our patience, and frankly, drive us up the wall. However, love always prevails, and we move past these challenges with love and understanding and forgiving them, of course. But today's story is a little bit different, and the difficulty of raising a child has never looked so grim. But before we go any further, I'm Inga, and welcome to Crime Rush, where we discuss all sorts of true crime stories. Now, if that's your thing, make sure to take a quick moment to subscribe to the channel and like this video to support. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about a case that is just absolutely horrific, and I need you to mentally prepare for this one because it is shocking. So, just a warning, it is gruesome, it is brutal, and if you are sensitive to this type of content, switch it off and make sure that you take care of your mental health first. But now, guys, let's dive into the case of two unhinged teens who did the unthinkable. Wendy and Randall Bjorge were both 63 years old and lived in Lawrenceville, Georgia, USA. They were well respected in their community and everybody knew them as a quiet couple, but a couple who were always willing to lend a helping hand. But on the 6th of April 2017, the Gwinnett County Police received a call from family members stating that they were concerned about the Bjorge couple. They had not heard from them in a week, and that was out of the ordinary for them. The Bjorges always stayed in contact with their family. The family member also added that they received a message from Wendy, but they could immediately tell that it was not her who sent the text. So officers made their way over to the Bjorge residence, and they knocked, and they called out for Wendy and Randall, and they even looked through the windows, but nothing seemed out of place. They decided to leave and to return the next day. And when they returned, they did the same. They knocked repeatedly, they yelled out for Wendy and Randall, but still there was no answer. The police thought they could perhaps be visiting family members, or perhaps they just went away for a weekend. So they left once again. But the following day, on the 8th of April 2017, they had to respond to an assault case, which was in Rambling Woods Drive. And there they found two victims who were badly beaten. When they arrived, the attackers had already fled the scene. But luckily, the victims were able to identify them. It actually turned out that it was the female victim's brother. But we'll get back to that in a second. At this very scene, police made an incredibly interesting discovery. They found Wendy and Randall Bjorge's vehicle. The attackers had fled and left it behind. Now, knowing that the family members of the Bjorges were concerned about them and that they couldn't get hold of them, the police decided to return to the Bjorge residence immediately. And this time, when there was no answer, they decided to force their way in. They searched the first floor, but found nothing, and made their way up the stairs. And when they reached the top of the stairs, they could smell something very concerning. Tragically, they discovered Wendy and Randall on the floor of their main bedroom, both deceased. They could immediately tell that this was a homicide. The couple had been bound, stabbed, their throats had been slit, and they had blunt force trauma to their heads. This was a brutal attack, and the community was in shock. I mean, you would be too. Imagine your neighbor or someone in your street was murdered in such a horrific way. I would be shocked. And everybody wondered, everybody loved Wendy and Randall. Who would do this to them? But to get a full understanding of what happened here, we have to go back a little bit. You see, Wendy and Randall had a few daughters, but we'll focus on one specifically, and her name was Amanda Sterling. Now, Amanda had a little girl of her own, and she named her Cassandra Bjorge. And from here on out, I'm going to refer to Cassandra as Cassie just to make it simple. So not much is known about Cassie's father, but Amanda went on to marry a man who became Cassie's stepfather, and they raised her in Duluth, Georgia. Now, reports claim that Cassie was not close to her stepfather at all. In fact, they didn't get on. So as Cassie started growing up and she got older, she started to rebel. And when I say she rebelled, it's not your normal teenage rebellion. She really went all out. Her mother struggled to discipline her and to keep her under control, and she really lacked a lot of guidance from her mom. Cassie was extremely disrespectful. She got into trouble with the law early with assault cases, shoplifting, and running away from home. She was involved with the worst crowd, and she was doing illegal substances, drinking, smoking, all the bad things that you can imagine. So Amanda, her mom, was just at her wit's end. She didn't know what to do with Cassie anymore, and she felt absolutely helpless. So she decided to reach out to her parents for help. She contacted her parents, Wendy and Randall, and asked them if they could assist in any way. Out of the goodness of their hearts, Wendy and Randall jumped in and decided to help their daughter and their granddaughter and try and provide a better future for her. They decided that the best thing would be to remove Cassie from her environment to give her a fresh start. Wendy and Randall filed for custody of Cassie in 2016 and they won, and soon the teen moved in with her grandparents. But do you think that Cassie was happy with this arrangement? Not at all. She would have rather stayed with her mother where she got away with everything, and she knew that her parents were going to discipline her and lay down some rules. And this teen, oh my goodness, believe you me, she was not willing to submit to any type of authority. But Wendy and Randall were hopeful, and they believed that with enough patience and love, they could have a positive impact on their granddaughter's life. So they laid down the rules for Cassie. She had to go to school, she had to keep up with her homework, she wasn't allowed to drink or smoke or do illegal substances, she had to stay out of trouble with the law, and she had to show some respect. I mean, this is basic stuff, guys. This is stuff that any human being should just do out of their own. But to Cassie, this was unacceptable and it was unreasonable. However, she actually surprised them at first because she started attending school for a while. She went to Peachtree Ridge High School, and it wasn't long and she decided she would just stop going. So she dropped out and soon she was up to her old tricks again. Cassie drove her grandparents up the wall. Police records actually show that they had to respond to 31 calls to Wendy and Randall's home since the time that Cassie moved in there. These calls included assault against her grandparents, illegal substances in their homes, and many times of this teen running away. And police were well acquainted with Cassie. They had witnessed so many disrespectful rants with her grandmother, and they were fully aware of who she was and how she acted. And every time Cassie would run away, this would take a tremendous toll on the old couple, as you can imagine. This world is scary, and they were worried about their granddaughter. They would put up posters and put the word out on social media and phone everyone they knew. And they were just worried sick about her. But did Cassie care? No, she didn't. She only cared about herself. So it wasn't too long, and then Cassie met a boy named Johnny Ryder, and he was 19 years old, and what do you know, he was also a troubled teen. And soon, Cassie would run away one last time. On the 1st of April, Wendy once again made a post on social media saying, "Please spread the word. Please be on the lookout for Cassie." Sadly, no one knew that this would be Wendy's last post. The same evening that she made this post, she was texting her daughter and discussing the difficulty of raising Cassie and trying to make a difference in her life. And she said, "I'm going to bed soon. Maybe tomorrow will be better. All I can do is hope for the best and expect the worst. It shouldn't be this hard for any of us." This would be the last text message that her daughter would ever receive from Wendy. It was a week after this that family contacted the police to do a welfare check on the couple. Now let's head back to the assault case that we discussed earlier, where the police found Wendy and Randall's vehicle. There, the two victims that had survived the attack was able to identify the people who did this to them. They stated when they returned home, they found everything in disarray, and they could immediately identify valuables that were missing. The female victim stated that she found her brother and his girlfriend in the home, and she immediately confronted him because she knew he was troubled. And in response, her brother sprayed her and her boyfriend with bear spray. He then proceeded to beat her boyfriend, and whilst he was doing this, he was calling out to his girlfriend to find the baseball bat and beat his very own sister. Now just picture the scene. It must have been the craziest scene and so wild. And they badly injured this poor couple. But somehow they got spooked and they fled the scene and they jumped into his sister's vehicle and they fled the scene and left Wendy and Randall's car behind. Now when it was time for the female victim to identify her attackers, the police were shocked. It was none other than her brother Johnny Ryder, 19 years old, and his 17-year-old girlfriend Cassie Bjorge. They launched a manhunt for Cassie and Johnny, and only a day later they found them at a friend's apartment in a complex in Suwannee. Once the two teens realized that they were surrounded by police outside, they barricaded themselves inside their friend's home. Now can you picture this poor friend? He had no idea what was going on. He probably just thought his two friends were visiting him, and here they come and take over his home. And it wasn't long and a SWAT team arrived and swarmed the complex. Before the SWAT team could enter the apartment, they had to assess the situation to make sure it was safe to do so. So they sent in a robotic device with a camera attached to it to see where the teens were and what they were doing. The robotic device picked up the teens in the bathroom while they were busy trying to self-delete. Luckily, the SWAT team acted quickly and they got to the teens before they could end it all. They took them to the hospital for treatment and then to the police station for questioning. Now, let me just tell you, when I saw the footage of Cassie being questioned, my jaw was on the floor. I mean, the reasoning and the thought process and the way this teen acts is just shocking. She shows no emotion. She shows no remorse for her poor grandparents. She's just cold. She very calmly walks police through the whole ordeal of how she and her boyfriend ended her grandparents' lives. Like it's nothing. Like it's just a normal chat she's having with a friend.
Basically, Johnny's in your grandpa's room with your grandpa and your grandma in the room. Do you come back in there and say, hey, I got this stuff? Or what? Okay.
Yeah, I go back into the room and I tell him that I got the stuff. And so after that, he slits my grandpa's throat. And then we drag my grandma into the bathroom. And
what was the reason for that? Just to bring her to the bathroom?
Yeah, I don't know why we brought her back into the bathroom. I guess we didn't want to bring her into the bedroom.
Okay.
So we just brought her into the bathroom. And then, yeah. And then Johnny slit her throat too. Mm-hmm. And I actually hit her in the back of the head with the tire iron. Well, not the back of the head, but like right where your spine is. Because he was telling me, he was like, if you hit right there, like just one like good hit, you can just knock the person out and then they'll be dead. Mm-hmm. And she was like pretending to be dead for a while. Like I would, check up on her and I would see that she was still breathing. And I'll be like, Johnny, she's still alive. What the heck? And then like Johnny finally like made the like last blow, and it was kind of creepy because she was like scared to die. Like she shitted herself and peed herself.
How did she?
It was kind of gross. That was really.
So you said the last blow though
was just like the last hit, like that.
Last hit with the tire iron.
Mm-hmm.
And who did that? You were Johnny.
Johnny.
Had her throat already been slit?
And then after he like did that, then he slit her throat.
Oh, okay. So her throat wasn't slit until.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And then did you guys pretty much just leave the upstairs, or?
Yeah. Well, we were just.
Now, if you thought matters couldn't get any worse, you'd be wrong. You'd be so wrong. Because these teens were so unaffected by what they had done. After the killings, they ordered takeout and had it delivered to that very same home. They also went ahead and had a house party with the bodies still inside. Cassie also surprised police by stating that they were actually planning on killing many more people, including Johnny's family. They actually went as far as to go to Johnny's parents' house, and when they saw there were a bunch of cars that they didn't recognize, they decided against it. Thank goodness for those vehicles outside the house. She said they wanted to commit many murders, and Johnny said to her that they could be like Bonnie and Clyde.
The reason was because they were planning on killing Johnny's family too. Mm-hmm. Whose idea was that? Was that also talked about at Peachtree Ridge Park?
Yes, that was Johnny's idea. Because then, that's the reason why he asked me if if I wanted to kill my grandparents, because he wanted to already kill his family. And he was like, let's be Bonnie and Clyde.
You said that?
Yeah. I was like, okay.
That's what I first said when, because I'm the one that got called out to the scene initially, and that's the first thing that came out of my mouth. So.
Bonnie and Clyde.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen the movies?
Of course.
You have or you haven't?
Yes, of course I have.
Of course.
Of course.
You're too young.
I'm 29 and I haven't.
Thank you.
Yeah, my mom was really into like old movies, so
Okay.
as I was a child, I used to watch like a lot of old movies.
On the 2nd of February 2018, the two teens pleaded guilty. And let me just say, Johnny was the only one to show any remorse, and this is what he had to say. I would like to express my deepest apologies to the Bjorge family. I'm so sorry for the pain and grief I have caused all of you. I know what I have done is abominable and evil and is deserving of hellfire. And what did Cassie do, you may ask? She said she had nothing to say. She just sat there and cried. And I don't believe for 1 second that a single tear was for her grandparents. I believe she cried because she knew she would spend the rest of her life in jail, well, in prison. Johnny could have faced the death penalty if it went to trial, but Cassie couldn't because she was a minor at the time of the murders. But because they accepted a plea deal and pleaded guilty, the two teens received 2 life sentences and only a possibility for parole in 60 years' time. Now, I'm curious to know what you think of the sentence. Do you think justice has been served, or do you think Johnny should have gotten the death penalty? Judge Deborah Turner went on to say that this was the worst case that she had ever presided over, and I really believe her. She said, quote, "Your behavior lacks any sense of humanity or morality." So just to give you a bit of insight on what took place that fateful evening, let's run through the events. Johnny and Cassie waited outside the Bjorge residence. They waited for Wendy and Randall to turn off all the lights. Once it was dark, they made their way inside, and Johnny was the first to attack. He attacked Randall with a tire iron, and then Cassie grabbed her grandmother, dragged her into the bedroom where her grandfather was, and restrained her with duct tape. The teens then proceeded to beat the old couple, started stabbing them, and slit their throats. I mean, it's sickening. Can you imagine doing that to your grandparents? I feel sometimes like these people are a different type of species, because I try and relate, I try and understand the psychology behind it, but no bad childhood, no experience in life gives you an excuse to do something this horrific. After the killings, the teens sealed the bedroom. I'm not sure how, but they sealed it so that they could contain the smell of the decaying bodies. Afterwards, they just went and ordered takeout. They invited their friends over. They did illegal substances. They stayed in that house for a week with the dead bodies. A week. Let that sink in. And then, of course, they decided to go and attack Johnny's sister and her boyfriend. And that's where police found the vehicle. And that's how they got to Cassie and Johnny. Now, Cassie's mom had to hear this news. Now, can you imagine? I can't think even what I would have to say after hearing that my child did that to my parents. I mean, just think about that. But Cassie's mom had an interview with the media, and I'll pop that in now.
Not in a million years did I ever think something like this would ever happen. Giving me hope and strength and for the days to come, because it's going to be a long road.
Nobody knew it would ever get to this. It's the true sense of a tragedy.
Live life larger than the means that she could handle, and it got away from her in a bad way and in a hurry.
Do not, no one judge my client and the way she mothers by the actions of Cassie.
At the end of the day, these murders were cruel and they were just absolutely senseless. Nobody deserves to die this way, and Wendy and Randall were a peaceful couple and all they wanted to do was help her. But all I can say is, rest in peace, Wendy and Randall, and I'm so sorry for what you had to go through. But there you have it, guys. That was the case of Cassandra Bjorge and Johnny Ryder. And I thank you for sticking with me through this case. I know it was brutal and it's not always easy to listen to this sort of thing, but I am really passionate about raising awareness and spreading the victims' stories. So thank you for being a part of it. Share this video if you can, like it, and don't forget to subscribe. And always remember, we live in such a beautiful world, but it can be scary at times, and there's a lot of danger out there. So make sure to make good decisions and stay safe. And I'll see you in the next one.